We are living in the world of casual conversations. Authenticity is the only thing that matters.
Start with different projects, and community is going to play a very key role there. If you have a project that you're working on, start making it more available to the larger community. There's so much of attention that AI is already getting. Now it's kind of slowing down a little bit. Now obviously the reality, the hype is kind of coming to the base, and things are kind of moving forward in the right direction. As I talk to a lot of enterprise leaders as well, and they tell me one thing that we there are two things we focus right now. One is AI, one is data quality.
There's data analyst, there is data engineer, there's data scientist. So,
Right.
could you lay some fundamentals down? What are the basic differences between these roles?
There was an airline, again I wouldn't name anyone, but then there was an airline we've seen the chatbot messing up a few things for the passenger.
I have noticed is that a lot of creators also promote using AI while you are in interview. Hi everyone, welcome to Bits, Bots and Bosses. I'm your host Akshata Goyal and we have an amazing guest joining us today. Someone who's no stranger to data and AI community. He has built an incredible community in this space and has met over 500 data science and AI leaders. He creates amazing content and shares invaluable resources for aspiring professionals. Joining us today is none other than Ravit Jain, the founder and the host of The Ravit Show. Ravit's experience spans across product marketing, community building, and B2B influence. He's also a Gartner ambassador and board of advisors at EM360, working to connect people and tech ideas in this space. Today, we're going to get a lot of insights from Ravit in data and AI space, starting from AI for startups, how to build a career in this space, and we'll also get some networking tips from him. So, without any further ado, let's get this started. Hi, Ravit. I am so glad to have you on Bits, Bots, and Bosses. How are you feeling today?
Super excited to be with you, Akshita, and thanks for having me. I've seen your content, I've heard your podcast. I love it, and great work that you've done with the podcast. So super excited to chat with you today.
Thank you so much for joining us. Let's just dive in to the conversation. I want to get started and first learn about the Ravit Show. How did you start the Ravit Show? What was the motivation behind starting this show? And I'm specifically interested to know what were those inflection points that led you to explore data and AI space specifically.
Very interesting question, and that is what people ask me a lot. That okay, why did you start just another podcast? What was the reason behind it, and how do you see it going? So just to take you a little behind in my journey, and how we kind of all started. Obviously, in terms of the education, and this might come as a shocker to your audience who might have not heard me or known me. Obviously, I've done my MBA in finance. I've done my investment banking from IIM Indore, which is again in finance. But I've never worked in finance because maybe I felt that okay, I'll keep the intelligent work for the finance folks and then get into something which is more in data and AI, where I obviously found more intelligent people as well. So, obviously, it goes long back when I started my gig into research, and when I started doing research and started creating those marketing reports, that's when I started understanding that data kind of plays a very important role, because I was working in data to forecast different markets in this space, and these are various markets. It's not just limited to a certain industry. It could be healthcare, it could be uh, a specific disease in healthcare. Say glioblastoma was one of my reports I remember, and we worked like we had like team. We worked overnight. We collected the primary data, secondary data.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the point is, obviously, I kind of played a very important role for me to understand that okay, that data is going to play a very important role in
Sure.
the near future. And I also kind of felt very much interested and intrigued to get into that field, learn more about it, learn from the people who are working in the space. How do they do it? What are the different tools they're using? And obviously opportunities kind of took me to a place where I also started working for a publishing company, like Pack Publishing, and I used to be the community manager there. But that's where I actually got to work very closely with data science AI authors, and that kind of gave me an understanding and gave me the depth of understanding the data and AI community, because
Right.
even though I was commissioning books there, I was more looking after the authors, getting them onboarded, understand the different topics that are relevant to that period, and produce books around those lines
Hmm.
was something what I was doing. But I came very close to the community, because when I was working with the authors producing books, I was also going out as a community manager. I was also kind of bridging the gap between the data and AI community
Hmm.
to come across the bridge and understand the different books that we were publishing.
Sure.
And slowly and steadily,
Hmm.
I kind of started building my own community too in that process, where
Hmm.
people kind of started looking at me that, oh, Ravit is gonna help us educate with different topics that
Hmm.
he's coming up, or he's coming up with the authors to produce books.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think that was like an inflection point for me as well, that what more can I do for the community, because they've kind of started feeling in a way that they feel that, okay, Ravit will help us go out and learn about different topics. And I kind
Hmm.
of started also feeling more responsible, that, oh fine,
Yeah. Yeah.
when people are kind of coming to you and telling that, okay fine, this book has actually helped us in our career, or I could actually
Correct.
crack an interview because I read this book. Not like
Hmm.
it is wholly dependent on that, but if we could be a part of someone's journey as well, why
Hmm.
not? And that, keeping that in mind, I was like, okay, how do I make it more interesting for the
Useful.
audience as well,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So that's when I started as a live show on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn Live was a new thing back then. And I was like, okay,
Hmm.
fine, I'll
Hmm.
want to go on a go on a discussion with leaders in the space who are actually solving problems,
Hmm.
and make sure that even if they are obviously the CEOs, CTOs, head of engineering, head of products of different companies, we are not just talking about their products and services, but talking about something which is pretty key for the audience, which is actually the problems, right? So if they
Understanding
can
the space,
actually,
right? Hmm.
yeah, and
Hmm.
and if people, and that is for anyone. If I look at an interview, I would always want to learn something as compared to just understand about the product or what they're
Correct.
selling, right?
Correct.
So that was like the inflection point for us to
Hmm.
start the Ravit Show
Hmm.
almost 5.5 years back,
Yeah.
and yeah, it has been a journey since then.
Thank you for sharing. A lot of things jumped out for me. So
Yeah,
first of all, I think we do want to highlight that you transitioned from a non-tech career to completely being a leader in this space, right? So that is very inspiring because also been talking about it in my content that it doesn't matter in where you are in your career or what age you are in, your passions can drive your profession, and this is
true.
one of the great examples. So the other thing that jumped out for me was talking to the leaders. For example, a lot of the creators talk about the product and the platforms, but I think just understanding the underlying mental model is also something that everyone is interested in these days. So
True.
those were some really great points. Thanks for sharing. Just one follow up question before we move on.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to understand because I'm sure the beginnings would have been rough, right? It is not easy when you just shift from your mainstream career to something which is
100%.
a little bit different. Content creation is different, right? It has its own ups and downs. So what was the first video which made you realize that this is it, I want to do it, like, first point or first moment?
And this is very good question that you've asked me, because a lot of people kind of tell me as well that, oh, we've been putting out videos since a while, but we're not getting that sort of traction. I'm not getting, say, 200 likes on my video, though my previous post, and that's why now I've started doing the video content, but my previous got good traction. For me, to be honest, I'll tell you, when I did my first video, that is when I understood that I want to do this and want to continue and get on this direction. The
Mhm.
only reason why I felt that, as compared to where I could have felt the same thing, why I'm pretty sure my first video never had like even 100 people joining the session. It
Mhm.
was close to, like, I was lucky enough because I'd kind of built a little bit of community prior.
Yeah.
So obviously people were following me, and when I kind of
Mhm.
came up with a concept that, oh, I'm gonna now
Mhm.
start interviewing folks as well,
Mhm.
that community obviously were following me, so I kind of got a little more leverage as compared to someone who would directly want to start. So
Mhm.
maybe I saw like around 55 people, 57 people, I would say, who saw me like live, and that was the number I saw on the left hand side, and I was like, "Woo! I'm talking to
Mhm.
57 people,
Yeah.
directly right now on a
Mhm.
live session."
Mhm.
And slowly and steadily, when I started, asking questions, got into the discussion, people started asking questions, and that's
Mhm.
where, I was like, okay, fine, this is pretty cool.
Mhm.
Now I am again bridging the gap between a
Yeah.
leader whom I'm interviewing, or
Mhm.
someone who's, subject matter expert, with
Mhm.
the community, and this could be pretty interesting
Mhm.
for the audience.
Right.
So that was one point which kind of gave me confidence. The second one was when we were done. Obviously, we saw tons of questions. I was asking all the questions to the person I was interviewing as well, and then after the interview was done, I got like several messages that, oh, we saw the interview. It is something pretty good. We learned this, and I'm pretty sure it will help us in our career. It is something we don't have to pay for. So,
Yeah.
would you like to, obviously, keep these types of sessions going? When
Continue.
will this happen,
Yeah.
right? And then I also had like people who reached out to me to be interviewed on the show as well, because maybe sometimes it's about the casual conversation which can bring in so many different aspects of a personality as well. But
Right.
even in terms of the topics that we discussed were very easy to learn for a non-technical person as well, right?
Mhm.
So that was actually the point when I thought that, yes, I'm not going to stop, and I didn't. So I'm happy, and the
Yeah,
community
we're all
supported.
glad.
Yeah, and it also happens because to be honest, there's just one thing: just be authentic is what I
Yeah.
always tell to everyone.
Mhm.
Because even if you try to be if you try to be someone else, or having role models is fine, but everyone has their own
Mhm.
personality. Just stick to it and go on this journey. It's always like the cliche, very cliche statement that I'll make, that it's like a marathon, it's not a sprint, right? So
Yeah, yeah, it's a very long
you have
journey.
to understand that way. And to anyone who asks me as well, right, that, oh, it's been like 1 month, we've done like 7 shows or 7 episodes of podcast, and we've had like fantastic A+ guests as well.
Hmm.
That doesn't matter. It's not about, like, to level, guests do matter. Like, guests
Hmm.
are obviously the subject and the
Yeah.
content that you're wanting to create
Hmm.
content with, but then
Hmm.
I'm not saying it is just about that. So people need to understand there are various factors that come into the play, and then it kind of works out.
Hmm.
And it's a slow train.
It's
Let
a
it go. Enjoy the process.
Yeah,
That's
it's a long
that's how it
race.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And I think very well put. We are living in the world of casual conversations. Authenticity is the only thing that matters. So
True.
awesome. Let's move ahead. And I want to talk about now startups, because you've been talking to a lot of CEOs and CTOs. So
Yeah.
I want to, and AI is becoming a fertile ground for a lot of startups. A lot of people are starting out AI startups just from, two-room setup and very small startups, right? So I want to understand, what is the good great starting point for, in your opinion, where people could get started with minimum investment, and what are the few things they could do in the beginning to set themselves for success?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question in terms of, for anyone who's wanting to build a company in AI. I would say there are so many open source tools that you can go after, and, obviously do so much more. So it's a free investment. Like, there's no investment that goes into the game. But then, if you're really interested to, obviously build something, first of all, there are so many different places, so many different, like, YC is one place where people obviously go out, and, obviously do a lot of startup, they
Sure.
pitch their ideas and then they join that the yearly academy, right? So that could be one place, but then there's obviously a place where start with different projects, and community is going to play a very key role there. If you have a project that you're working on,
Hmm.
start making it more available to the larger community out there.
Sure.
Make it like if you have your own own framework as well that you're planning to put out, put it on free framework. Make sure it's open source, people can
Hmm.
use it, utilize it, and that's a good starting point. Because
Hmm.
you,
You learn
if you
a
want to
lot.
make like the minimum investment, that's
Hmm.
like the minimum investment. The only investment is time, which is huge, obviously, but then you'll build it for yourself.
Hmm.
Start there.
Hmm.
Make sure that others could, obviously utilize it, and they can be the advocates for your product
Hmm.
on the longer run where you're kind of going. And then there's, obviously there are so many investors out there. There's so much of attention that AI is already getting. Now it's kind of slowing down a little bit. Now,
Hmm.
obviously, the reality, the hype is kind of coming to the base, and things are kind of moving forward in the right direction as well in
Hmm.
terms of where it was so much funding that was going out. Now,
Right.
obviously, the funding is being questioned because there are use cases coming out of various AI, the technologies as well, right? And
Sure.
the different
Yeah.
industries.
Yeah.
So I would say start with something which is open source. Make sure it's available to the community as well,
Hmm.
and then go deeper into the journey. It will help you
Yeah.
obviously grow your startup as well. And then there are obviously investors, there are obviously grants, there are
Hmm.
colleges that would be happy to look at your project and give you
Hmm.
grants as well.
Hmm.
So why not utilize that?
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. I think one of the key challenges that a lot of companies face is, and we also had a guest in last podcast. She was also talking about that your AI model is going to be as good as the data you're providing it to be. So
Right.
I think that's the biggest challenge. Now technologies and tools are available for anyone to go ahead and started with coding, but data is where everyone gets blocked. So what do you think early startups can do about having good data and set themselves like good in terms of data?
Yeah, no, that's a actually very good point, and that's one challenge for all the new startups as well. But then when we talk about data in terms of you know the the like we did, I remember early this year we did a meetup in Bangalore at Informatica office, and I remember like it was just our event, me and Sanjeev Mohan. We kind of put that event together, and we obviously did a Gen AI meetup, and
Okay.
every slide that there were around 7 sessions, 2 panel discussions that we did throughout the day, like 9 hours, I guess 8 hours of sessions that we had. And every slide had one thing which was about data quality.
All right.
So
Mhm.
it's also about, when we talk about AI models, obviously data kind of plays a very important role, and
Yeah.
that's been obviously a big blocker for a lot of
Hmm.
companies out there in terms of
Mhm.
how do we make our data better. If I'm
Hmm.
getting right, obviously we want to make sure where the data needs to be A plus, and then you can think about the AI models to be
Hmm.
successful in the implementations in different industries.
Correct.
So I feel now companies have started realizing, like I talk to a lot of enterprise leaders as well, and they tell me one thing that we there are two things we focus right now. One is AI, one is data quality, because
Hmm.
everything kind of starts with data quality. We need to understand that if we
Hmm.
have that all sorted, AI
Hmm.
models kind of work pretty well, and
Hmm.
then our implementations happen at a larger scale for those
Sure.
enterprises that we
Yeah.
are catering to, and
Hmm.
then it all works together. So, and
Right.
then one more problem is about obviously companies putting the models to production,
Hmm.
which, like, I've seen massive percentages where companies have said that okay, it doesn't go to the production. So if it's
Hmm.
not going, you need to work on different projects and make sure that you are putting the models to production, and you are kind of trying, because it's not going to happen without trying.
Hmm.
There, if you like, even if we say the like 2024 year was actually the year for implementation,
Hmm.
it's still happening. Like I know 2024 is still ongoing, and I
Hmm.
think even 2025, the year will be of the year of AI implementation. We'll still
Hmm.
be learning.
Hmm.
It's where we learn. We'll get more use cases,
Hmm.
and there'll be more productionized
Hmm.
things that would happen. Then only
Hmm.
it would make all sense.
Yeah.
So I
Hmm.
think that's where, for me, data quality is something that every enterprise, every startup is
Hmm.
focusing on to make sure their AI models actually work pretty well.
Correct. Hmm.
And that could lead them to success. So
Yeah.
that's very much true.
Yeah, yeah. So I think before even thinking about anything else, making your AI models better, the starting point is just look into your data quality, what kind of data you want
100%.
to gather, and then go from there, right?
Yep,
Okay.
100%.
Awesome. All right. Let's get your career coach hat on for a moment since we're talking about data a lot. And there've been a lot of roles in data space in itself. And they have been, I think it's growing at a faster pace than any of the other areas. For example, there's data analyst, there is data engineer, there's data scientist. So
Right.
could you lay some fundamentals down? What are the basic, differences between these roles, and what is the one that anyone could get started on as the first point? Or, what are the companies looking at when they hire a candidate? Now that you talk to a lot of leaders, and what could we do to set ourselves apart from the competition?
So that's a very good question in terms of, obviously what's the starting point. To be honest, for from my vision, where I've obviously spoken to so many people who look out for jobs and
Mhm.
those leaders who are also hiring, what
Hmm.
I kind of feel is uh, data, like, first it used to be where, oh, data analyst role is a role to get into data, like that's like the first step to becoming
Yeah.
a data scientist or a data engineer, and people
Hmm.
still have that perspective. But I still feel that in data, if you are a data analyst, sometimes you can grow in just in that role to a level
Hmm.
where you wouldn't want to be a data scientist or a
Data
data
engineer,
engineer,
right?
right?
Yeah, it's a
you could
different
you could
career path. Ravit, can
that's
we
a
can we
Yep.
define these roles a little bit for the audience? Data analyst, engineer, and
Yes.
scientist. Yeah.
So I think, more on the lines where analytics kind of play a very important role. That's where analysts kind of come in. They're playing with analytics tool. And analytics engineering is something different to
Hmm.
what analysts do.
Hmm.
So I would say anything related to analytics is where the data analyst, as the name
Sure.
itself, the designation kind of talks about.
Hmm.
If you're looking at data engineering, it's more about the data pipelines where,
Yeah.
from left to right, the data engineers are kind of sitting in the left, and obviously working to make sure that the data
Hmm.
pipelines are not broken. They're working
Got
on
it.
different data quality aspect. They're making
Right.
sure where the flow of data is
Hmm.
in a proper state. And
Got it.
then when you're kind of looking into data scientists,
Hmm.
they're more data science related roles.
Hmm.
And then there's obviously more which is kind of coming up, which is AI engineers, and
Hmm.
which is hot. First, I feel like there's a lot of transition that has happened from machine learning to AI engineers now.
Hmm.
We
That's
There
interesting.
were
Hmm.
a lot of machine learning engineers back
Hmm.
then. There are still machine learning engineers. They probably call
Hmm.
themselves that, but
Hmm.
I feel a lot of machine learning work that used to happen
Hmm.
are also transitioned to these AI engineers, and that's why it's one of the hottest role. And machine learning engineering was like a very
Hmm.
hot thing back
Yeah.
then, and it's still
Yeah.
a hot thing.
So
But
AI engineers specifically, they work on just creating AI applications, or they work on creating the models?
so models,
Hmm.
it could be, it could be about, though AI applications is like the first, like the front role that they are hired for, but then there's a lot that goes behind the scenes as well, right?
All right. Mhm.
You, as the name itself suggests, like you
Mhm.
need to be knowing a lot more engineering. That kind of plays a very important role when you
Mhm.
are an AI engineer who's hired
Got it.
to make sure that you can actually create those apps as well. It's not only just about
Sure.
working, like obviously if you work on the model, your app kind of plays,
Yeah.
comes out
Hmm.
pretty well. So it's
Hmm.
like a full stack role, I would say,
Yeah.
as well, when you
Yeah.
talk
Kind of.
about
Hmm.
AI engineering.
Understood. Awesome. Awesome. And then you think that the starting point, if I'm coming from no experience at all in data in AI, then I could get started with data
Hmm.
analyst, or there are different paths I can take.
There are different parts, actually. I've also seen, like, I've had a friend who came out of the college, and he was hired as a data scientist directly from IBM, at IBM. So
Mm-hmm.
exactly, he never did something what the data analytics folks did, right? Because he had a major, I think, a master's in data science.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
it was
Mm-hmm.
more relevant to something which a data scientist would do, right?
Sure.
Or work
Mm-hmm.
into. In
Hmm.
data, for data analysts, maybe it could matter on what their projects,
Hmm.
the projects that they're doing. If they're
Hmm.
doing projects which are analytics related,
Right.
obviously
Hmm.
they would be more relevant to data analyst as a role.
Hmm.
But it still depends. Like, I'm saying, analytics engineering is something which is again different from what analyst data
Hmm.
analyst role is, right?
Right.
So if
Right.
they're working in open source, maybe DBT, and they're working on DBT models or something like
Hmm.
that, analytics engineering is like the role that they might
They
be
might want
interested
to
in.
go in.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. So what I'm learning
but
from.
yeah,
Yeah.
sorry to cut you off, but
No,
I
no
don't
problem.
think there's like a starting point, to be
Yeah.
honest, where
Exactly. Yeah.
we have that perspective, and I've seen that perspective with
Hmm.
a lot of people out there, or in a lot of fresh graduates as well. They kind of
Hmm.
feel that, oh, I've done my studies in data science, so I can't be a data analyst. If
Hmm.
you have the project expertise, if you have had worked,
Hmm.
if you've done anything in analytics, and if that is something more of interest to
Interesting.
you,
Hmm.
I think you should definitely try. Why not?
Perfect, right? That's what actually I was summarizing it to be. So it doesn't matter where you want to start. It's basically you have to explore where your long-term interests would align, or your, what you
Correct.
find it interesting. If you find it interesting to get the data ready for models, if you're interested in data pipeline, go for data engineering. But if you're
True.
more into interpreting data and getting insights out of it, then analytics is the space to be. Whereas you want to work on the models and overall getting the application started, then AI engineer and machine learning engineer is also a place to be, which would be then working specifically on models then, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Let's move to this interesting part. So
Yeah.
you've got the front seat in a lot of AI transformations, right? So I want to know what's the craziest AI trend that you have seen, and some AI trends can be occasionally unsettling as well. So I want to know what's the best and what's the a little bit disturbing trend you've seen.
So yes, the disturbing trends, right?
Hmm.
So the disturbing trend for me, obviously, I've seen a lot, but something that kind of which we all have seen as well, with a lot
Hmm.
of big companies, giants as well, making a mess about using AI responsibly. Like, even if
Hmm.
it's in the
Correct.
beta version, we've kind of
Hmm.
seen companies messing up,
Hmm.
and it didn't go pretty well.
Yeah.
I think even there was an airline, again, I wouldn't name anyone, but then
Sure.
there was an airline we've seen the chatbot messing up a few things
Hmm.
for the
Hmm.
passenger out there, when they are actually talking to a chatbot, AI chatbot. And
Hmm.
that could be a problem in the future as well, because you need to be very sure of the information that you're even
Of course.
providing. what if
Yeah.
what if a passenger goes and
Hmm.
looks out for something
Hmm.
about of information about their upcoming flight, and it
Hmm.
says, okay, your flight is delayed by 5 hours,
Hmm.
and this person is sitting at home, and they've got like a chatbot who have answered that, but maybe that was for some other flight, which was
Oh God, such a
for
mess.
which was delayed by 5 hours. It's a mess, and you don't have the chat retrieval on your end if that happens.
Hmm.
So that could be a mess as well. So you need
Of
to be, and
course.
these are very small things, but then it becomes like
No,
big
but
things,
it
right?
has
Because
the
for yeah,
capability of disturbing your like day-to-day life routine tasks, right? So
exactly.
I think very well put. I wanted to tell what I've been experiencing as well. So
Sure,
I
would
mean
love
there
to
are
know.
really amazing trends like with Gen AI. AI has been embedded to everyone's life earlier it was we all knew about AI, but no one was. I think a lot few people were using it, but now everyone is using it, and I'm
True.
very fully in support of that. But I've been creating content for students a lot, because, like, for interview preparation and what should they do. What I have noticed is that a lot of creators also promote using AI while you are in interview, and
Hmm.
I think there've been some guidelines as well from for interviewing managers, or the a panel, that you want to go into onto the video calls to understand if the candidate is using any AI application. So I think use AI for preparation and whatever you study material, but this
Yeah.
is one space which I don't feel AI should be used in, and I think I mean, down the line you'll fail anyway. You'll not be able to sustain the role if you're going to get it using any AI
Through
tool.
AI.
So
Yeah.
that's my opinion, not a
No,
very
100%. No,
so
it's
that's
a good opinion. Then,
yeah,
those are the things that we are not thinking about the future, right? And
yeah,
that's where responsible AI kind of plays a very important role. That use
absolutely.
something which is very much, okay, everything will be available for you, but then how responsible you are about things.
Right.
I think AI is to make your work easier, definitely,
Correct.
things faster, but then it's not to exploit it. If you exploit it, maybe for something like interviews, it's
Hmm.
gonna exploit you later when
Yeah,
you get on the roll
yeah,
because
you'll not be
it
able to
can
sustain
be
it. Yeah.
it's the sustainability that kind
Hmm.
of plays a very important role. So yeah, there are many other things which
Yeah.
some on those lines which doesn't work pretty well
Right.
when you're looking at
Hmm.
AI. But then yeah, it's a powerful machine, it's a powerful thing, right? So use it
Hmm.
for your benefit and grow and obviously learn, I would say.
Yeah. Very good discussion there. Okay, so on to the last segment of the podcast. So,
Yeah.
when I see your work, I think data and AI work, obviously, it's really good. It's amazing. But you know what jumps out for me? It's the incredible community that you've built. You've been into so many networking events, you talk to a lot of people. So, I want to understand, like, if someone wants to get started, what are the best networking events or platforms or strategies to kind of start creating a name for them, or just build, even if it is the smallest network they want to build, where can they get started?
Yeah, that's a good question. In terms of, obviously events, again, it is very much dependent on what you feel you want to create your niche in. If you are a person in analytics and you feel that, okay, I want to attend the events where these companies participate, there are amazing enterprise leaders who are good in analytics would come and speak. Those
Hmm.
are the places you would want to be. As a content creator, I obviously for us data and AI as a whole, we kind of cover like a big ground. It's not just limited to data engineering, data
Hmm.
analytics, or infrastructure. We go to all the events and
Sure.
make sure that we have
Mhm.
like we cover those insights as well. But
Hmm.
for someone who's specifically interested
Hmm.
for in say in the analytics space, there
Hmm.
are a lot of analytics events that happen. There are a lot
Yeah.
of proprietary events that
Hmm.
happen, and they
Hmm.
obviously call their customers, they call their different enterprise leaders, they call their partners, and they
Hmm.
speak at those events. So
Hmm.
if you or if for anyone who wants to look and understand about an event, first look at the speakers who are speaking there,
Hmm.
what type of topics are being discussed. If those are the topics which are very much relevant to something what you wish to learn, and you feel that, okay, if I attend this event, I will upskill myself. There could be places, there could be things that I could learn and apply that back in my job.
Hmm.
100% go for it.
Hmm.
But create like an agenda for yourself as well
Sure.
when you go to a
Hmm.
conference, because
Hmm.
conferences can get busy. There are multiple
Right.
tracks. Make sure even before going to a conference, you know whom you want to meet.
Correct.
Go
Correct.
on LinkedIn, message them, meet them in person. If you're a
Absolutely.
creator, obviously
Hmm.
you can always go out and
Hmm.
reach out to the organizers, tell them that
Hmm.
I'm creator, show them your work, what
Hmm.
you're planning to create as well on site, and
Absolutely.
they'll obviously help you. They would want to work with
Hmm.
you closely and make sure that you
Right.
get good content on site as well. So
Hmm.
those kind of things would help in terms of the topic, the building your own thing. And
Hmm.
then obviously, if as a creator, you can build your own community, attending the events that
Hmm.
are relevant to you.
Sure.
For me, if I have to name, obviously there are a few events which kind of stand out for me, which is
Hmm.
one is like Gartner Orlando, which works out pretty well. Gartner Orlando DNA, which is like
Hmm.
the Data and Analytics Summit.
Hmm.
So it has everything, like almost 5,000, I guess,
So
5,000 to
it does
7,000
it
C
just
suite.
have sorry to interrupt. It
No
only
worries.
has creators, or can professionals or students could also join the?
Professionals. No, no, it is. There are way less creators on site, to be honest. There
Hmm.
are more like the C suite folks who kind of attend this event. Those
Sure.
CDOs, those analytics, the VPs, the heads of data would attend this event and
Got
would
it.
actually learn about where the data is moving in which direction. So
Hmm.
it is actually for those who are really, wanting to meet the real buyers and, would want to see who's working in which tool and get that high level talks,
Hmm.
from these enterprise leaders and even the
Yeah.
Gartner analysts. So
Yeah.
that is something pretty cool. You might want to do NVIDIA GTC. We like that because we are also
Hmm.
partners with NVIDIA GTC,
Sure.
but then
Hmm.
like NVIDIA, but NVIDIA always comes up with pretty interesting stuff. Like I
Correct.
met Jensen himself, and we had like almost he did a keynote for like 3.5 hours, and we actually saw not even a single person getting up in those 3.5 hours. This guy did it alone, like the
Pretty
keynote,
impressive. Hmm.
and it was amazing, right? So those
Hmm.
types of conferences I like, where you kind of
Hmm.
see
Hmm.
interesting
Hmm.
announcements, good community, close community,
Hmm.
and yeah, it was very well put. And then
Hmm.
obviously Snowflake, Databricks Summit are
Also amazing.
those are massive events.
Hmm.
So we always loved going to those events. We have a lot of partners too, so that's awesome. Then AWS reInvent, which is coming up in December, it's again another massive event. We always love visiting AWS reInvent because it has, like, last year it had like 60,000 people. This year it's expected to have like around 100,000. So we all are kind of excited to see
Hmm.
how it all goes. But
Yeah.
hyperscaler events is where you can meet a lot of people.
Hmm.
So I would say go for events which are bigger in size. So you'll
All
really
right.
get the feel as well that, okay, fine,
Hmm.
I've spent like 3 days and I've actually met a lot of people. Now I have so much content. If you're a content creator, if you're a professional, you'll meet so many people. You might get a lot of opportunities as well from those types of events. So even
Sure.
do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think
That's
those are good
amazing.
events.
No,
Yeah,
no, that's really amazing. So, first of all, if you're planning to attend an event, plan your agenda before going. Like, you
for
don't want
sure.
to just show up and waste your time, because this could be like pretty long event. So,
True.
understand, like, have 4 to 5 takeaways. This is what I want to walk out with when you attend a
Yes,
conference, and then you already named the conferences that one can get started with. So, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that.
100%.
All right, now we're on time. I think we've got a lot of good insights from you. One last question before I wrap it up. So, you started Ravit Show 5 years ago, and if there was an advice you wanted to give the Ravit back then, what would it be?
I think one thing, obviously I would have given, like, I would have told myself, but then it still stays with me, which is like, oh, you shouldn't have imposter syndrome in you
Hmm.
when you're starting something
Hmm.
that you feel that you could do very good, or you could actually do it for the community. Don't have that imposter syndrome. I still have it, and
Yeah,
it will always be there.
it's
And
very natural to have it,
it's
right?
natural. If yes, and that imposter syndrome will actually take you to places, because if you feel that, okay, you know how you work and you're very confident about your stuff, sometimes you might not have that fire in you to go over and above,
Hmm.
because you feel that, oh, you're already doing good, you're good with
Sure.
it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you have that imposter syndrome, you would want to
Hmm.
push a little more
Hmm.
and keep pushing it till you feel that, okay, fine, it's good.
Hmm.
But if that good, you never feel it. Let the community speak for you, what you're doing, and let them see your work, let them come back to you.
Hmm.
And you can subside your imposter syndrome when people come to you and tell that, okay, fine, we have learned something from your show or the content that you create, or we saw this like long back, it helped us in our career. That's where you would actually not have anything as imposter syndrome around you, but only and only what you've achieved for yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would go back 5 years and I would say that, oh, I shouldn't have felt so much imposter syndrome. But then, to be honest, I still do that. I still have it. So I don't know if I should have not, like, I should have told that to myself or no, but it's for good, I feel. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really an amazing point. It's a good I think what the way I'd like to think about is that imposter syndrome is a very broader term. There is a part of
Right.
it which keeps you humble and which keeps you, as you said, the fire in you to keep striving for more, trying more. But there is a
Right.
part of it, like when I create the content and I put out there and there are no views, then obviously you will feel like maybe it could have been better, and that's a good productive part of it. But there is a negative part to it which would like bogging yourself down even though you're doing well. You just
Yeah.
don't have to repetitively tell yourself that you're not doing good. That could not, really, that's something we would all want
Yes.
to avoid. So
Yes.
amazing
Exactly.
point, I would say. I think
No, I
that
love
applies
it.
to all settings. It applies to startups, it applies to content creators, it applies to students who are preparing for
Exactly.
interviews. So
and
amazing point.
and we obviously in our careers, in our jobs, or whatever work we are doing, we always question ourselves at times that, oh, is it like something worth it, what we are working on? Is it
Hmm.
actually creating an impact for companies? I
Yeah.
talk to a lot of tech giant leaders as well, and sometimes, obviously off air, they would tell me that, okay, I don't know if I'm actually working that hard to be in a position where I am right now. So,
Right.
or is it something? But they don't understand that they have earned that position because they've
Hmm.
worked for it, right?
Yeah,
So that
they
imposter
might not
syndrome
know
can,
about it. Acknowledging is also not everyone's, a thing to do. So,
yeah,
uh, a lot of work goes into it, and
true.
you, even if you acknowledge or not, people are watching and people are noticing it, and that's fine.
Just keep doing your stuff. Don't have that
Yeah.
roadblocks in your mind, and you'll go so much ahead in anything that you're doing, even if it's a job. And just be passionate about what you're doing, because
Mm.
people say that, oh, you need to be, I'm not saying just passion will help, but obviously your hard work would take you to places. But
Yeah.
if you're passionate, it's just more, it keeps you more on the toes where, oh,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
love what you're doing, and now you can run in that direction much
Right.
faster. So
Right.
just keep doing it, be
Absolutely.
authentic, be real to the world, the community, and to
Yeah.
yourself.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Ravit. This was an amazing conversation for me, and I hope our viewers are also going to enjoy it. We'll keep in touch. I think we'll
Yeah,
also like to be a part of the amazing community that you have created, and hopefully, we'll record another episode soon. But thank you so much for talking to us today, and it was really a pleasure to have you on our show.
the pleasure is all mine, Akshita. You are such a fantastic host, and thanks for hosting me today. And obviously, you built a great audience. Keep doing what you're doing. You're inspiring a lot of people out there.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Bit Spots and Bosses, and special thanks to Ravit Jain, who shared a lot of insights and knowledge with us. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we have a lot of conversations, deep dives with leaders planned for you, which will be available in upcoming episodes. Thank you.